Welcome back to the channel. Once again, Britain is being told to wait, to be patient, to trust the process. Fresh claims linked to Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein have prompted a review by the Met Police. And the public is reassured that everything will be handled properly, that there is nothing to see here until the review is complete, that we should all remain calm. But calm is not the same as satisfied, and patience is not the same as trust. The problem Britain faces is not a lack of process, it's a lack of answers. For years, the Epstein affair has cast a long shadow over powerful people on both sides of the Atlantic. Names surfaced, connections were documented, questions were asked, and yet, again and again, the same outcome followed: delay, distance and silence. This is not about presuming guilt, it's about demanding clarity. When new claims emerge involving figures at the very top of British public life, the bar for transparency should be higher, not lower. Instead, what the public sees is a familiar pattern: reviews announced, statements issued, institutions closing ranks, and an expectation that time will do what scrutiny is not. That expectation rests on a dangerous assumption that the public will eventually lose interest. The Epstein case is uniquely corrosive because it sits at the intersection of money, power and access. Epstein was not a fringe criminal operating in isolation. He was embedded in elite circles, he cultivated influence, he moved comfortably among politicians, royal financiers and celebrities. That is not speculation, it is established fact. In that context, scrutiny of association is not gossip, it is basic requirement of accountability. Yet, in Britain, accountability often seems inversely proportionate to status. The higher you are, the more carefully the system tiptoes. The language becomes cautious, the timelines stretch, the standards subtly shift. Reviews replace investigations, and statements replace explanations. For ordinary people, the contrast is stark. If you're accused, you're investigated. If evidence emerges, you're questioned. If doubts remain, you live with consequences. But when the subject sits at the apex of society, the machinery slows to a crawl. This is where public confidence collapses. The Met's decision to review fresh claims is presented as proof that the system works. But a review is not an investigation. It is an assessment of whether an investigation might be warranted. And when years have already passed, witnesses have aged, records have scattered, and memories have faded, the practical outcome is often predictable. Time becomes the shield. Supporters of the status quo insist that this is simply the rule of law, that no one should be judged without evidence, that caution is virtue. All of that is true up to a point. But the rule of law also demands equal treatment. It demands that the influence does not soften scrutiny. It demands that institutions act with urgency when credibility is at stake. What undermines confidence is not caution itself, but selectivity. This latest review also raised an uncomfortable question about Britain's relationship with truth when it is inconvenient. The Epstein affair is not just an American scandal with British footnotes. It is a global exposure of how elite networks protect themselves. Files were sealed, testimony was delayed, jurisdictions passed responsibly back and forth. And through it all, the victims were left watching institutions argue about process. That pattern is now painfully familiar. The public is not asking for a predetermined outcome. It is asking for daylight, for clear timelines, for plain English explanations, for a sense that status does not buy insulation from scrutiny. Instead, we get carefully phrasing and procedural fog. This matters because trust in institutions is already brittle. Policing, the courts, parliament, the monarchy all rely on public confidence. When that confidence erodes, the damage spreads far beyond any one case. People begin to believe that rules are flexible for the powerful and rigid for everyone else. The belief is poison in a democracy. There is also a broader cultural issue at play. Britain has long struggled with deference, with an instinct to protect institutions by avoiding uncomfortable questions rather than answering them. The idea seems to be that scrutiny itself is the threat, not whatever prompted it. But institutions are not weakened by transparency, they are weakened by the perception of impunity. If the review concludes that no further action is required, the public deserves to know why. Not in legal jargon, but in clear terms that addresses the substance of the claims. If the review recommends further steps, those steps should be taken promptly and openly. Anything else will be read rightly or wrongly as another exercise in delay. And that brings us back to the central issue. This is not about a single individual, it's about whether Britain can demonstrate that no one sits above scrutiny. That influence does not purchase silence, that reputation does not override accountability. Until that is convincingly shown, every new reveal will be met with the same reaction: scepticism, frustration, and the sense that justice in Britain moves at two speeds. The Epstein case will not fade quietly. Each new document, each new claim reopens the wound. And every time institutions respond with caution instead of clarity, they deepen their mistrust. Britain does not need another review to tell that its trust is fragile. It needs leadership willing to confront uncomfortable truths, explain decisions plainly, and accept that credibility is earned through openness, not managed through delay. Until then, the Andrew question will remain what it has always been, a test not just of one man, but of a system that too often protects the powerful by waiting for the public to look away. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want more honest political commentary and don't want to miss what's really happening behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments below.